Hey guys, Jonathan Reich here, a licensed CPA in the state of Louisiana. And today we're going to be talking about a couple different bill pay platforms. That's kind of tough to say whenever you say it quickly like that. So you may be wondering, what is a bill pay platform? Chances are you are already seeking out this information, which is why you're watching this video, or you have just accidentally stumbled into something that not a lot of people know about. So let me paint you a picture. Let's say you're a small business owner and maybe you're selling books or selling musical instruments, something like that. Well, you have to pay your employees every week, every 2 weeks. But in addition to that, you have to pay your electric bill monthly, your rent monthly. You have to pay the dozen publishers who are sending you inventory every other day. You have to pay your utilities. You have to pay for the guy who cleans your windows. You got to pay for a lot of stuff. And like households, if you don't pay your bills, bad things happen. Your accounts get placed on credit restrictions, things like that. And so, what a bill pay platform does is it helps aggregate that data and it helps put everything in one place. And so, today we're going to be talking about QuickBooks as a bill pay platform and Melio as a bill pay platform. And they each have their pros and cons. And we are actually going to start with QuickBooks just because that's probably the one that most people are familiar with. So obviously the online bill pay within QuickBooks is going to be for QuickBooks users. So if you're not using QuickBooks, this probably isn't going to be the platform for you. It's definitely a restriction. I'm not even sure if you're allowed to use it. However, I would say probably 70 to 80% of small businesses already use QuickBooks. And so that makes it really attractive to be plug and play. If you're using bill pay to aggregate all of those payments, all of that vendor data, it's going to be available right through QuickBooks Online just as a plugin. So I've had several clients use it in the past. They're pretty happy with it because it's got a seamless integration. It allows you to plug directly into your accounting software in a way you don't have to spend any extra time training to learn the software or anything of that nature. If you can use QuickBooks, you can use their bill pay function. The other thing is, because it is made by Intuit, whenever you are paying your bills, let's say you've already entered the invoices into your accounting system, they're all right there listed out ready to be paid. It's pretty seamless, pretty intuitive. But with that comes the simplicity. So whenever you're running your bills or your invoices that are owed, any payables through QuickBooks Bill Pay, what you're going to find is there's no reporting. Typically, you can't set a pay date. You're going to be very limited on your options. You can either have them mail out a paper check or you can have an ACH from your bank account. So those are definitely some drawbacks. Me as an accountant, one of those biggest drawbacks to me is the lack of reporting. I definitely like to see where my money is going just because I need to account for every dollar. Now, if you're a business owner, you're making good money and you're playing a little loosey-goosey with the financials and you're happy if you know you're making enough money to keep the doors open and pay yourself a little something extra, that's fine. But if I have a client come to me and say, hey, I really need to see, like, what have my expense categories been? What have I been paying? What has gone up recently? QuickBooks is going to leave a little bit to be desired. So, but certainly not a bad system. So let's talk about what it costs. Typically, what you're going to find is QuickBooks is going to give you 5 free ACHs. Don't spend them all in one place. Am I right? It's almost like I can't do anything with this. And so that's pretty disheartening to me because I like something to be free. I like a good value. I'm a penny pincher. I mention it in tons of other media. If I can save a buck, I'm going to save a buck. That's how you get ahead. And so for them to just kind of offer such a lackluster basic package to just take it for a test drive, that doesn't really sit well with me. After you beat that freemium tier, I guess you could call it, what you'll find is you're going to have checks. If you're mailing out checks to your vendors, which basically QuickBooks will stuff the envelopes, put a stamp on it, get the address after you upload it. It's going to be $1.50 to $3, depending on the volume of transactions you're pushing through the system. So if you're only paying a handful of bills by paper check, you're going to be paying on the higher side. If you're just paying everybody by check, it's going to be on the lower side. Now, I always warn my clients, if you do elect to go to ACH, their ACH is relatively cheap. They're cheap in the term that you can get a limited amount based on what you're paying. So if we scroll down here to the pricing to see what QuickBooks Bill Pay is going to cost, you can see that you get $40 a month for $7.50, and that is going to be that recurring entry, and that's just a starting out. You're going to end up paying $15 here, and so if you're already paying $60 a month, $50 a month for QuickBooks, which is about what I would expect a mid-sized business who's actually doing something to pay, you're going to look at about $75 all in. 40 sounds like a lot, but you can run through it pretty quick. I have tons of vendors who pay, or tons of clients who pay way more than 40. And then the elite plan, $90 a month, and if you're already paying 50 to $100, it adds up quick. I mean, that could be $1,200 a year. So not necessarily like the greatest value. They're gonna get you basically. If you're gonna use their service, you're already a part of that ecosystem. You're gonna have to pay to play. The final tidbit that I want to go before we move on to the other contender in today's topic is be wary of when you're sending ACHs to your clients. I've mentioned in the past that once a vendor receives an ACH or a wire to pay for a past due bill, they kind of get used to it. They kind of like it. And so don't expect to use bill pay for a couple months and then just put it on the back burner. If you start paying your vendors via ACH, they're going to love the fact that there's no mail flow, that they don't have a chance of a hot check, a check getting lost in the mail. It's direct. It's right there. It's traceable via wiring number. Be wary with that, because if you're tightly managing cash and you could really use that extra 3 to 5 days of mail flow and then a 1 to 2 day for them to cash the check and then for it to clear on your end, paying via ACH is not a great idea if you're playing those cards close to the chest. So something to consider. Yes, the ACH bank transfers are free, but if you have to pay $1.50 to $3 for those paper checks because you don't want to print them yourselves, that cost for the extra capital to stay in your account for 5 to 7 additional days, it's not a bad thing. All right, so we've kind of just really touched on what QuickBooks has to offer. They're an okay service. You're going to pay to play. Typically, things are delivered on time. They're delivered correctly, and it integrates seamlessly with QuickBooks. But let me tell you who else integrates seamlessly with QuickBooks, and that is Melio. Melio is a new kid on the block. I think they were established in 2018 or 2019, and they have come to play ball and kind of dethrone some of these traditional larger payment platforms like Bill.com or Ramp. And they do that by offering pretty attractive services. So one of the things I just mentioned a couple minutes ago is I like free stuff. And I promise I'm not trying to pitch this, but you can send ACHs for free. And you can send a lot of ACHs for free with Melio. I apologize, I misspoke. So navigating over to the pricing window of Melio, they are a much better value than QuickBooks, but they're not free. So for just $2.50 a month starting out, that's that kind of hook to get you hooked on them. You can get 20 ACHs for free. And then for $5.50 months, it's going to be 50. So it does scale pretty quickly. There are custom pricing plans available. You're still going to get those 5 free ACHs. But as someone who always, yes, I like ACHs because it's direct, it's easy to trace, things don't get lost in the mail, and I'm not having to reconcile accounts and leave checks outstanding. There are definitely benefits of using checks. And Melio will allow you to either print the check on site. They'll allow you to plug your address, put it in an envelope and stamp it and send it out, or you're able to have them do it. And it's going to be a similar pricing structure. So while the checks may cost a little bit more than the ACHs, it depends how you're playing your cards. And I know that sounds cheap, but I've worked with Fortune 500 companies who continue to mail checks. We'll send out 1,000 checks a week just to hold on to that cash a little bit longer. But you don't have to pay just with check or ACH with Melio. You have other options, and this is really neat to me. If you're like just a really lean startup, I mean, you're playing it real fast and hard because you need money at the end of the week to make payroll. Melio will allow you to use what I call a ghost card, essentially. So A lot of vendors don't like it when you pay via credit card because there's transaction fees involved. Well, Melio will allow you to use essentially a virtual card. So if I have a credit card with Capital One, my vendor says, no credit cards, please. I can still use my credit card to pay them. It will incur a 2.9% fee typically, but the vendor gets paid and then my credit card gets charged. So that does two things. One, it gives me a little bit of working capital, and two, it builds points, which is always great because I can use it to redeem a gift card or buy Christmas presents at the end of the year. Super useful. So how does the bill pay system actually work? Now we've talked about their payment solutions, which, by the way, you can also wire funds. That is not something you can do with QuickBooks Bill Pay. I just wanted to throw that out there before we moved away from the bill pay options. You can wire funds and you can wire them internationally. Not something that you can do with QuickBooks. So keep that in mind if you are working cross-border. Maybe you're a business in the U.S. and you have Canadian vendors or Mexican vendors who need to be paid in CAD or pesos. Keep that in mind. Melio will take care of you. So how does the platform actually work? It's going to be very similar to a lot of the other bill payment providers like Bill.com or QuickBooks Bill Pay. You can manually key an invoice, load it in, and then set your invoice date, set your terms, who you're paying, what was it for, when you want the funds to be released. Boom. Done. Taken care of. Or I like this. You can take a picture and upload it to Melio, and it'll do all of it for you via OCR and AI. So that's really a nice way of saving a ton of time that you don't have to train yourself on. If you have a smartphone and the ability to operate the smartphone, you can pay your bills like really, really quick. And that is something that's super important because if you're a small business owner, you're going to be stretched for time all of the time. So anywhere where you can get a couple extra minutes back to where you don't have to look and sift through the stack of bills on your desk, why wouldn't you jump all over that opportunity? Some other important features from Melio that I do find lacking in QuickBooks Bill Pay. They both offer it, but Melio is more refined. So let's say you're a small or mid-sized business and you have a bookkeeper and maybe you have a staff accountant, a controller, and there's you, the business owner. Perhaps you don't want the bookkeeper to just be paying everything willy-nilly. You know what needs to be paid. Hey, I have a credit coming for that because that inventory was damaged. Melio will allow you to basically segment controls, separation of duties, essentially, which is super important in a bill pay platform in that the bookkeeper can enter the invoice, the controller can sign off after approving and checking the invoice, and then you, the business owner, or your trusted CPA will release the funds for that invoice. So there's multiple layers. So if something was entered wrong, there's a chance for it to be caught instead of the bookkeeper writing the check and paying the bill. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but I've seen people accidentally send out $500,000 to the wrong vendor. And luckily we got that money back, but some people aren't always that honest. All right, let's talk about a couple of the downsides of Melio. There aren't many, but there are some that I've seen other folks complain about when using the platform. The first being that those paper checks, they may not be printed that same day and mailed out. It could take 10 days for that check to get there, which if you're playing your cards right, it may not be a bad thing. Ooh, my bill pay service provider said it was in the mail. I think we've all heard that one if you're an accountant or if you're a small business owner. It's in the mail, it's coming. Those single day ACHs, that is not always guaranteed. If there's a banking holiday and then a weekend or something like that, it could be 3 to 4 days, which you can't really blame them for that. But you have to be careful. If your vendor needs that money or you're about to have your account placed on credit hold, it might be best to just wire those funds just because Melio, as a third-party bill service provider, they all are susceptible to it. Maybe there's a backlog. Maybe they had a sudden influx of volume because they onboarded a new client. Sometimes things just get bogged down. It takes a little extra time. And then you're still going to have to pay to play. The pricing is definitely more flexible. There are more options in QuickBooks Bill Pay. But at the end of the day, you're still going to need to pay. But the good news is it does integrate with QuickBooks. Just like I mentioned a second ago, QuickBooks Bill Pay integrates seamlessly with QuickBooks. Melio also does an excellent job. There's not going to be any downloading a spreadsheet from your bill pay service provider, putting it in a CSV, cleaning it up, and then uploading it to QuickBooks. It connects via API. If it comes out of Melio's, it goes into QuickBooks. There's no room for human error. It's autonomous, and it happens every day. So definitely a big plus. So now that we've kind of talked about what a bill pay platform is and two of the biggest contenders in the space, hopefully you've got the information that you need to make an educated decision. So I would say Melio is probably for small to mid-sized businesses who don't mind paying a little extra for the international ability to send funds, who want flexible payment options because you can use a credit card, because you can wire. You do have ACHs, you do have paper checks, whereas with QuickBooks, you're going to be able to ACH or do a paper check, no in between. Melio is also going to be able to offer that separation of duties, so that's definitely a plus if you want to ensure that you have the final say-so in your small business, or if you're a CFO and you want to make sure all bills over $50,000 are approved, something like that. And then QuickBooks is going to be for people who are already using QuickBooks. People who are probably small businesses who don't want to learn new software, who don't want to train new staff, who aren't interested in necessarily upsizing, because as you upsize and you start to onboard more folks, it gets more expensive. So they both have a niche. And now that you've watched this video, hopefully you've got the right idea on which one's going to work best for you.